Turns out Seattle police promised not to tear gas protesters twice and then did it both times. Mark Taylor-Canfield reports. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. I wanted to check in with our old buddy Mark Taylor-Canfield. He's an independent journalist in Seattle area. He's a contributor to Truth Out, Huffington Post, Daily Kos, and others, in addition to being a musician. His Twitter handle is mtaylor-canfield, spelled just the way it sounds. And Mark, welcome back to the program. Give us a snapshot of what's been going on in Seattle over the last few days. It seems like there's been more kind of open conflict between the police and protesters there, particularly in the last couple of days. It seems to have settled down maybe 4 or 5 days ago nationally. But from what I'm reading, it seems like it's continuing in Seattle. What's the real story here?
Well, the latest breaking news, Tom, is that the Seattle Police Department have abandoned the East Precinct. So there have been protests all night long there. Councilmember Shama Sawant, who's proposing a ban on the use of tear gas and rubber bullets, gave a speech last night. And so actually it's been quite peaceful. The police department promised, Carmen Best, the chief, promised not to use tear gas on the demonstrators, and then once again, it was used again on Monday night, or on Sunday and Monday night. So the big pushback from the community.
Monday night, as in last night.
Excuse me. Last night actually was calm because the police chief actually left. They actually abandoned the East Precinct to the protesters. So as of today, the East Precinct is surrounded by protesters, and things have calmed down. It's a response, I guess, to the community's uprising against the police department here, because those complaints of police brutality and militarization of police go way back to the World Trade Organization demonstrations, where Seattle sort of became a model for the militarization of police around the country. And there is such a push. Teresa Mosqueda, the city council member, I've been participated in the last 2 council meetings. She's calling for a 50% defunding of the police department. And so Chief Best's response was they just packed up and left the East Precinct. All the windows are boarded up. It's surrounded by protesters. And hopefully we're not going to see this excessive use of tear gas on the protesters again. But pretty much the entire community and the city council is calling for real transformative change here, Tom. I think just like in Minneapolis, the city council is fed up. They do not believe that the Seattle Police Department can be reformed. It has to be completely changed and transformed, and we have to find a new way of policing in Seattle. And that includes the banning of these military-grade weapons. Tear gas is banned by the Geneva Convention as a chemical weapon.
Right. And so in Minneapolis, you've got a city council that has a supermajority, a veto-proof majority. Even if Mayor Fry doesn't like what they do, he's going to have to go along with it. Shama Sawant, the socialist member of the Seattle City Council, has been on this program many, many times. And but my sense it was always that while she had some progressive allies on the city council, and then there were some kind of corporate Democrat type allies, that they did not have anything close to a supermajority or an vetoable or whatever majority. What is the actual political situation in that context?
Well, I think they've all everyone on the council has now realized that all the reforms that were called for by people like me and groups like the Committee for Government Accountability, the ACLU, Amnesty International, all these groups to the WTO demonstrations called for reforms of the police because of the mass violations of people's civil rights and police brutality that took place. So I think what the city has finally realized is that nothing was really done to reform the police after that. And now, on Monday, yesterday there was a council briefing and then a full council meeting, and the council voted unanimously on a resolution to demilitarize the Seattle police. I think they have a unanimous majority now, Tom. I think that all of the people who were dragging their feet on the council have now been woke up. They realize what's going on, and they're ready for real transformative change. Because people are just tired of the half measures and the hollow promises. The mayor and the police chief promised to ban tear gas the very same night People got pepper sprayed and tear gassed, including our city council member. And believe me, Tom, I've taken a few hits for the team myself. I've been hit with rubber bullets, flashbang grenades, tear gas, you name it. I've been gassed so many times I can't even remember now. And it's just ridiculous. It also has gone on during May Day protests in Seattle and other protests against Donald Trump and Black Lives Matter protests. It happened during the Occupy Wall Street protests. It's got to stop. The Seattle police have developed a very bad reputation for crowd control measures. They love to use tear gas, and it's got to stop. Can you imagine all of the people? We heard testimony from a man whose 3-month-old child was foaming at the mouth, had to leave Capitol Hill because once they start to use the gas, the entire area of the city is filled with fumes, and you can't escape it even in your own home. Elderly folks, people with compromised immune systems, children, asthmatics, it could be lethal. These weapons that they call, quote, non-lethal are potentially lethal, especially when used improperly, when lobbed directly into tightly packed crowds. That's crazy, Tom. It's very, very dangerous. The tear gas canisters burn at extremely high temperatures. They burned holes in the artificial turf at the soccer field at Kyle Anderson Park. That's how hot they are. So you can imagine what happens if they land on you. I know the Cairo news reporter was hit with a tear gas canister, an MSNBC news reporter got hit with a flashbang grenade. So, this is typical for Seattle, that they target not only protesters but also members of the media. And that's something that Reporters Without Borders and the Committee to Protect Journalists have called for an end to as well. They're saying that all over the country, journalists have been targeted by police, and that's also got to stop. We're 45th in the world in terms of press freedom, according to Reporters Without Borders on the World Press Freedom Index. We need to do much better than that. And one way to do that is stop arresting protesters, stop brutalizing the protesters when the police arrest them. I've seen that many times in Seattle where the arrests are very violent. And sometimes they're just, young women or, young people who are not, able to defend themselves. And the way that they treat arrestees is just terrible. So it's all got to stop, Tom. And I think finally we may have turned a corner in Seattle. We may actually see a transformative process coming for the city council, not from the mayor's office and not from the police chief, unfortunately. It's got to come from the people, and it's got to come from the city council directly, direct democracy.